All right, we told you at the top of the hour about the president's recent tweets regarding Hurricane Maria and the number of deaths reported in the wake of Hurricane Maria. He is questioning the number of deaths and says Democrats created a higher count to make him look bad. David Begnaud has been covering the devastation in Puerto Rico for almost a year. He joins us now via Skype from North Carolina, where he is covering Hurricane Florence. David.
Vlad, I'm trying to get a better understanding of what the president means, but the bottom line is he appears to be blaming the reports about the death toll on Democrats. Particularly as I look at one of these tweets, he's saying if a person died for any reason like old age, just add them onto the list. I don't know if the president is joking there. I don't know what the heck he means. But the bottom line is, according to researchers, not one person died simply because of old age. Not on the death toll that has been compiled by George Washington University's Milken Institute in a report that was commissioned by the government of Puerto Rico, which paid more than $300,000 to have experts in disaster management realize how people died. 2,975 people are estimated to have died because of Hurricane Maria for the following reasons: because of a lack of access to proper medical care, water, medication. Essentially, the local government collapsed, both the central government and the municipal governments. FEMA was not properly prepared. Let me give you an example. I don't want to just keep it vague. I'll give you an example. They didn't even have one cot in the warehouse, one cot for someone to sleep on in the warehouse before Hurricane Maria. That's from their internal report. That's a fact, okay? FEMA wasn't as prepared as they should have been. FEMA was also called on to do more work than they're usually required to do because the local government and the central government couldn't do what they should have and needed to do. The fact that the president of the United States is suggesting that anything other than a natural disaster may have added to the death toll is infuriating people. You can imagine on social media right now, the responses. I just want to read some of them that as I'm reading to you. Meredith Johnson tweets, "This is a new low." Heidi tweets, "This might be the worst thing he has ever done." That's incredible. Jay says, "Is this real life? Like, seriously?" Hector writes, "Sick and dangerous. Can't be gone soon enough." I'm hoping to speak to the governor of Puerto Rico. I asked his staff if he would be available. They said yes. I'm expecting that could happen anytime within the next half hour.
So, David, often when the president tweets, there's sort of a nugget in there that a nugget of fact, if you will, and a factoid that he kind of like pulls other information out of. And the factoid that he has here is right after the storm, the death toll was 6 to 18. Can you talk a little bit about where he got that number from and how long that number was accurate?
When President Trump flew to the island, we were there. He went to the National Guard Armory, not far from the governor's mansion. He met with the governor, the mayor of San Juan, and other local officials on the island. At that time, someone told the president that the death toll was 16. It's been reported that he was told that by the governor of Puerto Rico. For whatever reason, the government stuck with the number of 16, and it became a headline heard around the world. Guys, I have to tell you, from very early on, we were hearing that the death toll was higher, but the Puerto Rican government was fighting everyone, pushing back on that. You would ask them a question, and they would almost get offended as to how you would think that the death toll could be any higher than 16. That number became sort of a signature that people couldn't get away from, okay? That's where the president got the number from. In all fairness, the man didn't make it up. He got it from someone on the island. However, the number was not 16 for very long. It went up. The government of Puerto Rico capped it at 64. That's where they stopped counting. And then they independently hired outside experts. But that's the answer to your question.
David, we know that you have spoken to the governor many times before. You're trying to book an interview with him today to get his response to that, to the tweets from today. We know that you did receive a statement from him earlier this week when the president made comments about the great success that the federal government had in helping the people of Puerto Rico. He, unlike the mayor of San Juan, who has had some very strong words with the president, in fact, we just put up one of her tweets in the wake of these recent comments by the president. He has, because he understands that he's in a way beholden to the president of the United States for support in the future. But I wonder, with texts like this, with tweets like this, people on the island are going to be so angry. Will he be able to hold back the tide of anger from people and not come out with a more forceful response?
I have to tell you, that's a very good question. He has never at any point since the storm deviated from what multiple sources have told me his objective is, which is to not criticize the President of the United States. Even his advisors in private have told me he needs the President's support too much to jeopardize it by criticizing him. That's the bottom line. You're talking about Carmen Yulín Cruz, and I was wondering what she tweeted. I hadn't seen it, and I'm just looking at it now. Mr. President, no matter how much you try to show your true, no matter how much you try, your true colors come shining through. Unfortunately, you just can't help it. You just can't help it. Your lack of respect is appalling. There she says, this is what denial is. Okay, that's the one that I just read. Yeah, I'm reading her tweets as they're coming in real time. Look, the mayor of San Juan is one of the first who came out, guys, very strong against the President of the United States. You might remember he called her nasty. Mr. Trump, you can try and bully us with your tweets, but we know our lives matter. You will never take away our self-respect. Shame on you. It has turned into a very bitter battle between the mayor of San Juan and the President of the United States, but there has never been a battle of words between the governor and the President. However, I was told by the governor's staff a short time ago he would like to address the President's remarks. I will tell you, don't expect him to come out and offer any type of criticism, and I say that only based on previous statements. He might surprise us. We'll see.
You know, David, when the President of the United States was alleged to have made comments about certain countries in Africa, and in particular the island of Haiti, he called them S-hole countries. There were a lot of people reporters who said, look, I've been to Haiti, I've been to some of these countries. Let me tell you how the people feel, what they are like, what the country is like, and they are not S-hole countries. You spent so much time in Puerto Rico, away from the numbers, because we were just talking earlier, the President, as the first American, as the Commander-in-Chief, is also the Consoler-in-Chief. Even if you don't want to fully acknowledge that there were mistakes made under your administration, you can come out and say, we mourn any loss of life. We understand that it was a devastating hurricane. It was a natural disaster, and we hope to not ever replicate that again. Tell our viewers what you know about the people of Puerto Rico and how they feel when they see their commander-in-chief, responding like this in the wake of these horrific deaths.
It's a complicated answer because you have to remember that Puerto Rico is a commonwealth. It's not a state. And the people of Puerto Rico have felt like second-class citizens for decades, many of them for most of their lifetime. So I have to tell you, in many ways, when I first got to the island, one of the reasons that reporting resonated with Puerto Ricans is because they never expected to be prioritized by mainland media as they were when the storm hit. And I remember saying to people, you deserve the same coverage, the same attention as everyone else does, okay? It's a complicated relationship with the United States. The President has supporters on the island. It would be inaccurate for me to deny that and not tell you that. There are also people who are consistently appalled by things like the tweets that you are now seeing on the screen. But the President has a classic way of saying things that are in many ways factually inaccurate.
Okay, so we lost David there.
David.
You know, he is covering a hurricane.
Yes.
So, and he's Skyping
see, he was
in
a car there Skyping in. But, you know, and
but I was really interested in his insight, you know, because we are reporting from here, and I just can't imagine what it feels like
to be
particularly
there.
If you have lost a loved one and you are, you know, depending on your president to offer some sort of condolence. And if you're waiting for this hurricane to come your way, you're depending on your president to not think that nearly 3,000 deaths is a success.
Right. And, you know, we're all in this together as Americans, and the people of Puerto Rico are American citizens. And so, you know, the idea that the president would somehow find a way to politicize the deaths of people is for, I think, a lot of Puerto Ricans. As David pointed out, there are some people on the island who support President Trump, and there are going to be some people who, no matter what he does, will not be supportive of him. But I just wonder, for all those families who've lost a loved one, who are mourning still the death of somebody in the wake of that hurricane, to not have the president of the United States sort of just acknowledge that we feel your pain, to paraphrase another president from years past, and just say that we hope that this never happens again is probably really hurtful.
It's not even just not acknowledging their pain. It's not even acknowledging the death of a person. He's pretending like it had nothing to do with the hurricane, and we know differently now.
Right. He's saying that Democrats inflated the numbers.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was the hard work of reporters like David and others from newspapers and other networks who were there chronicling the horrors of that hurricane and the aftermath.
It's not the federal government that it paid for and asked for this study to be done, right? Yeah. So, David, I think we have you back now. Sorry, Vlad and I were just, it is sort of just confounding, and I cannot imagine how it feels to the people of Puerto Rico, particularly to the people who have lost loved ones, or even if they didn't lose loved ones, whose lives have been devastated. How many people lost jobs, have not been able to resume the life that they had before, over a year later?
People are offended, Anne-Marie. I was listening to what you and Vlad said. I'll tell you why we got cut off. The governor's office in Puerto Rico was calling to tell me that he will join us live at 10:15. So I will rejoin you to interview the governor. And my first question will be to get his reaction about the president's tweets. People are offended. That's the bottom line. Every tweet that I'm getting right now in response to what Donald Trump has said, there's a sense of personal shame that people feel for this man who is our president, a sense of disgust, and a sense of real offense that people take it personally. I'm not sure, as many as the president has a lot of advisors, and to send out a tweet like this that flies in the face of the facts is puzzling. It's puzzling. I understand that the president is a politician and things that he will say and do are political. I get it. We all do. But the bottom line is you don't have to be a constant observer of what happened in Puerto Rico to read that tweet and say, what the heck is he talking about?
And David, as you pointed out, and this is not to, tout your reporting, but you said something that's really important, and the fact that you're alluding to it now, that the people in Puerto Rico, the people that are of Puerto Rican descent here in the United States are tweeting at you, they're sending you messages through social media. It is because you and other reporters made the effort to be there on the ground and to tell those stories and to share the stories of those people with the rest of us and with the rest of the world. And now you are that voice for those thousands, millions of people who sometimes over the course of the entire history that Puerto Rico has with the United States, the federal government, has not been heard. And so we are going to look forward to your interview with the governor. We'll carry that, I guess, on CBSN Live as it happens. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And we'll check back in with you a little later as you prepare for that interview. And of course, you're also covering Hurricane Florence. So you've got a lot on your plate, and we appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back with the governor shortly.